Morning, boys and girls. How are you today? I am so glad you came here today to join us as we begin our new sermon series, Face Your Giants. Now, nobody likes to hear about giants, but today we're going to find out how to face the giant fair. But before we get into that, let's go and give God some praise and worship.
Everybody clap your hands. Now stop. I feel it in the air right now. It's all around, I see it everywhere. It's the power. Yeah, God's power. It's the power to move any star. It's the power to heal your broken heart. It's the power. Yeah, God's power. So don't hold back, no, don't hold still. God is here and He is real. Take 4 steps to the left, to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4. Turn it around and move to the right. 1, 2, 3. Now take tiny little jumps forward to the front. 1, 2, 3. 4 jumps back, but you better look back. Let's do it all again right now. Take 4 steps to the left, to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4. Turn it around and move to the right. 1, 2, 3. Now take tiny little jumps forward to the front. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 jumps back, but you better look back. 2, 3, 4. Now freeze. And everybody clap your hands. Now stop. Jesus is the one who lights our way. He gives us hope for each new day. When the world feels dark and lonely, His love illuminates. He's the one I trust and I will follow Him. He is the light that breaks through the darkness. Follow His lead and light it up, light it up. Jesus will guide us through every dark time. Follow His lead and light it up, light up the world. Jesus is the one who lights our way. He gives us hope for each new day. When the world feels dark and lonely, His love illuminates. He's the one I trust and I will follow Him. He is the light that breaks through the darkness. Follow His lead and light it up, light it up. Jesus will breaks through the darkness. Follow his lead and light it up. Jesus will guide us through every dark time. Follow his lead and light it up the world. Light up the world. Light up the
The sun comes up, it's a new day dawning. It's time to sing your song again. Whatever may pass and whatever lies before me, let me be singing when the evening comes. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, worship his holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul, I'll worship your holy name. You're rich in love and you're slow to anger. Your name is great and your heart is kind. For all your goodness I will keep on singing. 10,000 reasons for my heart to find. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, worship his holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul, I'll worship your holy name. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, worship his holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul, I'll worship your holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul, I'll worship your holy name. I'll worship your holy name. I'll worship your holy
Good morning, babies. How are you today? Well, you gotta excuse how Granny looks with all this flour on her face. I was in the kitchen baking bread. But something dropped in my spirit, and I wanted to come out here and talk to you guys about it. It's about giants, about fear. Now, let me tell you a story about when I was a little girl and I was growing up here in Exuma. In the settlement of Roll Town, down by the bay, that's where the beach area is. They call it the bay. Used to hear this boom, boom, boom sound all the time, and I was trying to figure out what that was. And one day, my pappy told me the story about how that was the king of the mermaids beating his drum and calling the mer people back out to the ocean. And I got scared. I said, mer people? The king of the mermaids? And then I heard the story about how they took unruly children down in the deep. And I was scared because I never did like the water. And you know, at that time, I was a little feisty. I had a little attitude towards my mommy and my pappy. So I was always afraid to go down in that bay, go down in that water. And I remember one Sunday after church, everybody was outside having a good time in the water splashing, but I was too scared. And then I remembered pastor talked about fear. And he said you've got to learn to face your fears, because sometimes when you fear so much, you miss out on life. And so I prayed. I said, God, forgive me for being rude to my mommy and pappy. Please help me conquer this fear so I can go and have fun in the water and that mean old merman won't come and get me. And then I said, anyway, God, I'm going to trust you. And I'm going to go in this water. And kids, believe you me, I went in that water and the water felt so good. And I had such a good time. And guess what? The mer people didn't come. The king didn't come. He didn't get me. So that means God forgave me for my sins. And I was the happiest girl in the world. And I've always gone in the water ever since. Well, that's my story about how I conquered fear. But let me tell you a story about this little boy named David in the Bible. And you all know the story about how he went up against Goliath. And Goliath was a big, tall dude. He was, 9 feet tall. And he was very big. And guess what? You don't believe David had fear? David surely did have fear. But what was more terrifying to him was the fact that this old mean Goliath was taunting the people of Israel. And he was blaspheming against God. And David was like, I can't have that. So David said, God, you're in me. Help me conquer my fear. And he went down and he got those 5 stones. And guess what? He gone up to that mean Goliath and he said, hey, you big old nasty old Philistine, you. I came here to tell you, you needs to behave or God is going to deal with you. And that nasty Philistine laughed in his face. But you know what? He had God inside of him. And he took those rocks and he put it in his slingshot. And he slung that around and around and around and around. And pish, it tossed right through the air. And guess what, kiddies? That stone hit Goliath right here between the eyes. And guess what? He died. And David said, that'll teach you for messing with my God. So this is what I want you to do for me today, kids. I want you to remember the word giant. When you have fear, remember the word giant. And I'm going to tell you what giant means. G, go. And you know what that means? Go before God. Tell him everything. Tell him about how you're afraid of the dark. Tell him how you're afraid of the water. Tell him everything. He already knows it all, but he just wants you to tell him. So remember, G, go to God. I imitate. Now, we all know we don't call it imitate. Y'all call it copycat, right? Copycat. That's what we used to call it back in the day, your copycat. But I want you to imitate some adult that is godly, who goes to God, who prays to God, and who moves when God tells them to move. That's what I want you to do. Those are the kind of people that you need to imitate. And then ask. Ask for help. Don't be scared to ask for help, kiddies. Ask a responsible adult. Your mama, your papa. Ask the pastor. Or ask the sister or the brother in church. Or even your teacher or your coach. They'll help you. Ask. And then notice. Guess what? Notice all the little small fears God helped you conquer. Like fear the dark. Fear using the potty for the little ones. The toilet is not a monster. You understand what I'm saying? So you notice all those little small things. Your fear of dogs, it goes away. And guess what? When it's time for you to give God those big fears, it's going to be easy, okay? Because you notice he helped you with the little small ones. And then trust. You got to trust God. You gotta trust God. In all things, you gotta trust God. And that brings me to 2 scriptures I want to leave with you today. 2 Timothy 1 and verse 7. It says, for God has not given you the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. And my favorite kids, what I remember was 2 John 4 and 4. All ye little children, you're more than conquerors, because guess what? Greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. So guess what? Remember, God is with you no matter what you face today. And if you remember those words, those letters to the word giant, man, listen here. There's nothing God won't help you with. And there's nothing you can conquer. You will look at that mean, ugly giant named Fear, and you will be able to do what you gotta do. Anyway, kiddies, Granny gotta go, 'cause I believe I smell my bread. Smell like it's burning. I can't have no burned bread. Anyway, kids, I'm gone. I love you, buckets. Bye. Boys and girls, Granny Shirley has some interesting stories, doesn't she? Well, today, she told us how to use the word giant when we're facing our fear. G, go. Go to God. I, imitate someone that is godly. A, ask. Don't be afraid to ask a responsible adult. N, notice. Notice all the small things God is helping you with. And T, trust. Remember to trust in God. And also remember, greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. Have a blessed day.